All right, and welcome to the Warrior Arts Renaissance Show, where you give us hard questions and we give you solid answers. Once again, this week I am flying solo, but that's okay because we have some questions that were written in that we're going to delve into a little bit here, try to answer. We'll start with one that was sent in by Charlie. Should martial arts schools accept disabled people? That's kind of going to be the theme for today. Um, I'm going to sum it up real quick and just say yes, and then go beyond that. And I'm going to delve a little more into the sensitive aspects of the topic. First off, there's a lot of things you have. It's not a clear-cut answer, although I make it a clear-cut answer in my school. I've never, ever turned someone away because they were disabled, physically, mentally. I've had several students who were physically challenged. I've had several students who were mentally challenged. And I have seen martial arts be an amazing vehicle for them to reach toward treatment goals and healing goals in a way that they wouldn't necessarily do without the martial arts. I think my first quote unquote disabled student that I ever had, and he would hate for me to call him disabled. He was blind, but he considered that a physical challenge, not a disability. He was very much an advocate for people with in situations such as his, with those types of challenges, going the extra mile and overcoming them. He worked hard at it, not just in the martial arts, but in everything else that he did in his life. He went on to be a very productive member of society, and an inspiration for multitudes of other individuals. Again, not just in the martial arts, but in pretty much every aspect of how he lived his life. He was blind, as I said, and he came to me and wanted to know if actually I was interviewing him for something else, for I think for a newspaper I was working for at the time. And I happened to mention that I taught martial arts, and he asked me if I could possibly teach a blind person. I said, well, I've never tried, but I'd be willing. And we ended up developing a methodology by which he could use his white cane, his cane that people who are vision impaired use, or many of them do. And he learned to use his like a bow staff. Okay, he turned it literally into a weapon. Now, I've not talked to him in years. He moved to another state, but the last time I talked to him, it was because he tracked me down. He contacted me, and he told me that he actually had somebody try to mug him, and he didn't know how many people there were. One person spoke, but he could kind of sense that there were other people around, and he sprung into using his white cane, and apparently actually put one of them in the hospital with some fractured ribs and sent the others running. And so, yes, obviously, people with disabilities can do martial arts. And I, for the most part, think it's wrong for schools to turn away people with disabilities who want to learn martial arts. Because let's face it, martial arts is, and you get right down to it, it's a combative science. It's supposed to be about keeping yourself alive in a bad situation. That's really the crux of it. And people with physical and mental challenges, in my experience, get bullied a lot more than people without. Are become the prey. Muggers, rapists, what have you, are predators. That's how their mindsets work. And people who have, I'm just going to say disabilities. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but people who are challenged in those ways tend to become the easiest prey. Okay, it's like the wolves who they chase the herd, and they go after the old ones, the sick ones, the dying ones, the ones in the back of the whatever, their whatever kind of herd they're tracking, whatever type of animal it is, and they go after that. They don't go after it, you know, because they're out to show how tough they are. They go after the weak one because it's easiest. Okay, it's a predator mindset, and that's how most, in my experience, having done mental health work inside a corrections facility, having worked in mental health for 15 years, and in and around criminal justice for over 20 years. I'm telling you, that's how the violent criminal mind functions in a predator mode. Okay, that's what leads to the violent crimes. So why then it would schools, and I've heard of many who turn away students with disabilities, and the reason I'm often given is liability. Okay, what if the person's what if they're physically challenged to the point that they get hurt doing something that people normally wouldn't get hurt doing? That's why you have insurance waivers, folks. Okay, I have an insurance waiver for my program. Um, I've never had someone seriously harmed in doing any of my program, any of my curriculum. However, um, if I ever did, that's why I have the insurance or the liability waiver in place, and it was required for my insurance, but I did it also to, as a double layer of protection. Um, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, that we should say, oh, every person who's physically challenged, is probably going to get hurt, so have them sign a waiver. I'm saying you should be having these waivers signed by anybody who enters your school to train. Um, Another reason I've given is, especially with students who are mentally challenged, as I'm often told that the reasons for turning them away stem from the idea, well, that person won't be able to keep up. Um, and you know what? Maybe not. Maybe that won't happen, but maybe the person will fall behind. Um, I have a student, and he's a student off and on, and more off than on. Okay, because what he's looking for is, he's not looking to be this great fighter. Okay, this great martial arts master. What he gets for the martial arts is something totally different. Um, he is um, he's in his 30s. I'm trying to think exactly how old he is, but he's in his 30s. He's been training with me off and on, again, more off than on, since he was 10. And what he takes away from the martial arts isn't, how to take down a mugger. What he takes away from the martial arts is more along the lines of self-confidence and calming his mind. And he actually has Aspergers, which is interesting, because I also had Robert wrote in and said, I am having a few issues with patterns, and I'm assuming he means kata, and I'm looking to get my black tag on my red belt. It doesn't say what style he's in. It kind of sounds like maybe a taekwondo type thing. I think they do black tags on red belts. I have Asperger's syndrome, but I am physically healthy and active. I was wondering if somebody on your show could tell me how an Asperger's or high functioning autism knows of a way, if you know of a way for me to learn patterns and forms that may suit my way of thinking. P.S. My club has been very supportive. Well, first off, I want to say kudos to the club. I wish he told us which club it was. I would say their name on the air, um, but he didn't. So kudos to whoever's club that is, Rob. And I hope you're listening, and I hope you take this back and share it with your sensei or whatever title, Sifu, what have you. And let that instructor know that I'm giving him or her a double thumbs up from the Warrior Arts Renaissance show for being supportive. It can be frustrating. Jordan, that I was talking about, Jordan Schaus is his name, has Asperger's. I don't know how many times I've had to reteach him the same form. Okay. And by the way, I have his permission to say this on the air. I wouldn't just be sharing this in his name if I didn't. But when I told him the situation, he said absolutely it was okay because he wants other people to know that you can do martial arts with a mental challenge. And so I don't know how many times I've had to reteach him forms, had to reteach him techniques, how many times he's forgotten forms that he just did the week before. And it just goes with it. Okay. It's just a part of it. And there's no reason to stop trying, and there's no reason for an instructor to stop teaching. And if anybody out there is physically or mentally challenged and your teacher is just kind of putting you in the back of the class and forgetting about you, find a different teacher. Okay, if you have trouble finding a teacher who will work with you, please contact me directly. Okay, I will coach you no matter where you are. I will coach you at a distance, and I'll do that while I'm helping you get into a school in your area that will focus on helping you and not hold you back by treating you as though your physical, mental challenges exclude you from doing martial arts. So the last question is, how do I feel about adaptive grappling and sparring? And that was a really long letter, but I'm just going to kind of sum up what he says um, here. Um, I from the spelling, I'm guessing it's a he. Um, I'm a grappler and a kumite guy at heart. All my students do kumite. All my students do grappling. If you come into my school, you better be ready to grapple. But you know what? I've had actually at the moment right now, I have a student. Um, is black belt in another system. Came over and started training with me. Is missing fingers. Okay, we have had to adapt his grappling. He's the second student I've had who had missing fingers. Um, both of them have excelled, in my opinion. Both of them have done really well. So I know there are people out there, even some instructors, even some so-called master instructors, who say, well, this is the way we do the technique. If your body won't let you do it, then you can't do this technique. And my thinking on that is that just means we need to figure out a different way to do the techniques, different way to get the same thing done. I know some people get tired, I'm sure, of hearing me drive home the concept of Pomoshi, the universal pattern. And on the surface level, the universal pattern is, the same movement having multiple applications throughout many systems. But on another level, deeper, I feel like a more internal level, I guess, philosophical level, it's not necessarily the universal pattern of what I do, it's the universal pattern of what I attain. Okay, so if I have a technique that requires me to grab a person and I'm missing a hand, I can latch onto that same person with, say, my forearm, or catch them inside my elbow and lock in on it. And with enough practice, I can get to the same point that the person with the hand is going to get to. A lot of our grappling, our more intense grappling that I teach, is what we call bone-on-bone grappling. Okay, and we actually take our bone of our arm, our leg, whatever, and we use it to pinch someone's nerves against their own bones, and causes intense pain. And most of the time when I'm doing that, I'm not even using my fingers. Okay, I'm using the back of the hand, or I'm using the knuckle of the wrist, or I'm using the elbow, or I'm using the forearm. So what do I think about adaptive grappling and sparring? I think if you have the physical challenge and you can't undo that, and you know that if you get attacked in the street, you're going to have to defend yourself with that physical challenge, then you better be training that way. Okay, you better be grappling that way. You better be sparring that way, if you want to call it that. Kumite is what we call it. I don't care what the physical disability or challenge is, however you want to word it. There will be a way to overcome it. And real quick, we're actually out of time, but I just want to throw this out there. I've had 3 fractured vertebrae in my life, and the last time I had a back neck injury because a drunk driver ran a stop sign, T-boned my car. It was in 2008, and the doctors told me then that I might never walk again, and if I did walk, it would always be with assistance. And it took me a long time to get back to where I am fully, where I'm able to do things like run around and walk and play with my kids and teach karate and jiu-jitsu and China and Kali and all the things that I love to do. It didn't happen overnight, but one of the things that kept me focused on getting better was my intense drive to do martial arts. And a guy I knew at the time, he's in another state. We haven't talked for a while now, but he got me started. I lived a lot closer to him than he got me started on Tai Chi. Of all the systems I'd done, I had never done Tai Chi. And he got me started on that. And I believe, I'm a man of faith. I believe that I was healed by the power of God and His will. But I believe that Tai Chi was a tool, a mechanism that he used in part of how he did that. So right there, once again, we have to remember the martial arts, although they're combative sciences, part of that combative sciences, one aspect of that is battlefield healing. And when people have been severely injured, or even if they're just born with being physically challenged or mentally challenged, there are healing aspects in these combative sciences that often get overlooked, but can be easily tapped into by a person, an individual who is seeking to heal. That's all the time I have for this week. I hope to be talking at you again next week. Take care.